911 indicates shots fired. The area is a concern to the police for previously other crimes there, including major crimes. 6 communities that surround North Braddock Borough have a mutual aid agreement, which means that when something bad happens in that community, then the other 6 communities will support that police department. At 8:29, a witness tells North Braddock Police that shots are fired by a passenger in a car and fired at particular persons. 911 further describes the vehicle. The description of the vehicle is wrong. They describe it as a gold Mercury. At 8:30, a victim, a white male, is identified. 911 indicates gunshot wound to the abdomen. Ultimately, it's determined there's a grazing wound across the stomach that may be attributable to a bullet, may be attributable fragment from a building. Now, these matters, obviously, evidence continues to be developed. So as more evidence is developed, the description of the vehicle becomes a light gold Chevy Cruze. The scene is secured by the Allegheny County Police shortly after the incident takes place. The Allegheny County Police, by the way, handle major crimes outside the city of Pittsburgh throughout Allegheny County. The victim, the person that was grazed across the stomach, is treated and released. There is video surveillance at this intersection. That video is attached as an exhibit to the criminal complaint, actually to the affidavit of the criminal complaint. What it shows is the Cruze comes up Baldridge. There are 3 occupants in the car: driver, front seat passenger, rear passenger side. The rear window comes down. A handgun goes out that window and opens fire on somebody at the corner. We believe we know who the target is, but the target is not identified in the affidavit. The person who is shooting the weapon has a dark-colored T-shirt on. The passenger in the front seat has a white T-shirt on. There's a man in North Braddock who is across the street. He's not the intended victim. He returns fire. When they process the scene, there are 9 casings that go back to a 40-millimeter handgun. That's the handgun from the car. And there are 4 casings from the .45. Now, from the .45, he strikes the Cruze 3 times. 1 goes in the rear window, 1 goes into the trunk to the right of the license plate, and the 3rd one goes into the driver's side, or the passenger side door. There are multiple strikes on a wall, which is maybe about 10 to 15 feet from where the Cruze comes up Baldridge, and that's where the intended target was. 13 minutes into processing this particular crime, the crimes that occurred in North Braddock, a call comes in and says shots are fired in East Pittsburgh. When detectives arrive, the scene is secure. The victim, Antwon Rose, had already been transported to McKeesport Hospital. It takes approximately 5 minutes to get from the site in North Braddock to the site where shots are fired in East Pittsburgh. The driver of the vehicle is in custody. The passenger with the dark T-shirt's in the wind. They have several departments that are looking for him. That person is later identified as Zaywan, I'm not pronouncing that properly, Hester. Z-A-I-J-U-A-N, Hester. He is the shooter in North Braddock. By all accounts, Mr. Rose never did anything in furtherance of any crimes in North Braddock. I know there's been some speculation in the media. Yesterday, or possibly the day before, Hester was apprehended by the sheriff's fugitive team. He's currently lodged at Human Center. He'll be charged with various crimes under what we refer to as Act 33 under Pennsylvania law. He'll come into the adult side of the courts. Now, this is significant to the car. Even though the car was struck 3 times, there's no blood evidence in the car. None of the passengers were struck in North Braddock. In East Pittsburgh, there are 3 spent casings that are recovered. They'll go back to a 9mm weapon. That's the weapon of Michael Rosfeld. There are 2 witnesses that are proximate to the location of the shooting. There is a video. From talking to the family this morning, we like to get the phone. We don't have the phone right now. We have the YouTube version of that video. It's significant because we want to enhance it a little bit more. The driver is extracted from the vehicle. He's on the ground. As the officer begins to put cuffs on him, the 2 passengers get out of the car. According to the witnesses, Rose shows his hands, turns, and runs. He is not in possession of a weapon. Neither is the other passenger in the dark T-shirt. There's another witness with a video. He's using a camera phone. The video doesn't add much to the evidence in the case. The car was processed, and they found 2 weapons in the vehicle. One is a 9mm weapon that was stolen. It's under the front seat towards the front of the car. The .40 caliber was also stolen. It goes back to 3 or 4 other crimes. It's under the front seat towards the rear. And it is the .90 caliber weapon that was used in connection with the shooting in North Braddock. The medical examiner did the autopsy and submitted various reports. Antwon Rose was hit 3 times. He was hit in the side of the face, in the cheek. The bullet exits through the nasal cavity. He's also hit in the right elbow from the rear. That's a through-and-through wound. He's hit in the mid-back, and that slug was recovered in his chest. That's the fatal shot. As I said before, that 9mm slug matches Rosfeld's service weapon. The at-scene Facebook posting is consistent with the independent witnesses' statements. And as I said before, there's no weapon that would have created a risk to Officer Rosfeld. Based on that evidence, I find that Rosfeld's actions were intentional, and they certainly brought about the result that he was looking to accomplish. He was not acting to prevent death or serious bodily injury. It's my position that he is not entitled to a justification charge to a jury as a defense, inasmuch as, under Pennsylvania law, if you are effectuating an arrest, you have to show the person to be arrested has committed a forcible felony. As I said already, Antwon Rose didn't do anything in North Braddock other than be in that vehicle. And you have to possess a weapon. Neither of those young men were in possession of a weapon. Or you have to otherwise indicate that somebody is in a position to take human life, and that is not the case here. Now, these are based upon jury instructions in a Superior Court case out of Philadelphia. An appeal was taken to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which was denied. Now, this is the 3rd time that we've had this factual scenario during my tenure. The first 2 date to the beginning of my tenure. You're aware that I directed that one count of criminal homicide be filed in connection with this case as it was in the prior two, given the same scenarios. I credit our chiefs of police and the ladies and gentlemen of law enforcement for getting it. So, for instance, last year alone, we had 1.2 million, in excess of 1.2 million calls to law enforcement. And we looked into 2 matters which involved police use of deadly force. That's still too many, but just to give you the numbers. With that being said, I'll take questions.
Steve, did you offer to recuse yourself based on a conflict of interest in the family this morning?
No. What's my con?
Tell us about the driver of the vehicle.
Pardon me?
Can you tell us about the driver of the vehicle?
As best we can tell, he's like a Uber driver, jitney. He's very forthcoming. Of course, he's looking at, driving somebody to the scene of a shooting has criminal implications. So he was very forthcoming with the county police.
Can you say more about the exact charges and when we'll learn them? I know there's a series of possibilities. Is that something that's going to be determined by a jury? Will the charges be narrowed? And what are the potential penalties attached?
The charges against the officer?
Yes.
One count of criminal homicide. The evidence supports third-degree murder. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter. But we think we should have the right to argue murder in the first degree.
And what will be the penalty next time?
For first-degree murder, that's life. Third degree is 20 to 40 years. Manslaughter is 3.5 to 7.
Steve, can you break down why you think a third-degree murder conviction would be appropriate?
It's an intentional act, and it's done recklessly. And there is no justification for it.
Officer Roosevelt in the affidavit says that he believed that Antwon Rose had a dark object in his hand. You dispute that, sir?
We took a statement from Roosevelt. He's on audio and video. He indicates that at no time was there a weapon in play.
DA,
Yes, sir.
did you go pressure to charge in this case?
No, sir. I've been doing this for a long time.
The community protest, the outrage from the family, you felt no pressure at all to charge?
No, I did not. As I said, this is the third time we've had this particular fact scenario during my tenure. Charged the first 2 times. We're charging this time.
How would you describe the actions of Officer Roosevelt that night?
I think I just did.
Steve, did Antwon Rose fire a gun at all that night?
Pardon me?
Do you believe Antwon Rose fired a gun at all that night?
No, he did not.
Are you aware of any history of this sort of incident in Officer Roosevelt's past? And what, if anything, can you share or have you learned about the circumstances of his departure from his previous job at the University of Pittsburgh or any other?
The county police has all his personnel files, and I don't want to get into that today, but we're aware of his background.
The criminal complaint against the officer refers to his initial reference to seeing something in a hand, and then he makes a different statement later. The complaint describes that as inconsistency. Can you explain the differences between what he said and what you used?
Well, he specifically says that he didn't see a weapon.
It said,
That's significant.
in the statement, though, he said that he believed that he saw a dark object.
Yeah, that's inconsistent with the witness statements. It's inconsistent with the YouTube video.
Does he need to see a gun or just something he believes is a gun?
The jury instruction says there has to be a deadly weapon.
Did Officer Roosevelt express that he was afraid at the time of the shooting, and if so, why didn't he fire the customer?
I don't know that. I know he was remorseful.
Do you know if he was on
the
the
third time that you had a situation like this? Did you say what the other 2 cases were?
Yeah, one involved a City of Pittsburgh police officer on 2nd Avenue, and one involved a Housing Authority police officer in the Armstrong tunnels. Both times, all 3 times, somebody was shot in the back, and they were not a threat to the police officer who was engaged in whatever aspect of their job.
Was Officer Roosevelt on a taser as well? Did he have used a taser?
I can only tell you that Antwon was about 15 yards before he collapsed. So he starts on the passenger side of a relatively small vehicle, but I doubt that a taser could have been used.
Steve, can you talk about the previous shooting in North Braddock and what impact that would have had on shooting in East Pittsburgh on Officer Roosevelt? when he does stop a car involved in he suspects it was involved in that felony shooting just 13 minutes earlier, does he go in with apprehension then? I mean, can you address that?
Well, I think you got to go.
Dynamic of the whole situation.
Sure.
Did that affect the decision to charge him or not?
I think you got to go in with apprehension. But unless you see a genuine threat, then it's inappropriate to take, in fact, criminal to take somebody's life.
And that's the reason you brought the charges.
Primarily, yes.
Was the foot chase an option? Did he say, or was there any evidence that he attempted a foot chase?
Well, their training says you disable the vehicle first, which he did. Take the driver out, keys out, show me your hands, that type of thing. You got 3 guys in the car. You wait for backup. So he's taking 3 guys out of the car before backup gets there.
Can you talk about the inconsistencies that are noted at the end of the complaint in Roswell's telling of his version of events?
I'm sorry, I don't follow you.
At the end of the criminal complaint, the detectives note that he told 2 different versions of events. Slight inconsistencies. Can you talk any more about that or address that?
Actually, I believe it's 3. The object, the lack of a gun, then he goes back to an object in his hand. That's a jury question.
DA, what's your message to Antwon's family?
We had a very nice conversation. They're very decent people. Obviously, they're very distraught about the loss of their son, who by all indications is a good kid. I'm going to keep that private between us, but it was a good conversation.
And to the community?
You can't take somebody's life under these circumstances.
Steve, you said previously that Antwon Rose had an empty clip in his pocket.
Yes.
Do you know the genesis of that, or where that came from?
Yeah, we're speculating. The gun was stolen. The clip is what the original clip was for the 9mm. They changed that out for an extended clip. So instead of 9 shots, you have 17.
They changed it out to the other gun?
No. There's a longer clip for the 9mm. So instead of 9 shots, I think it's 17.
So are you indicating that Hester fired the shots from that gun and then switched clips?
No, there's two guns in the car. There's a 40 and a 9. Both guns are stolen. The 9's under the front seat. The 9 is never discharged. The 40 is discharged, and it's from the rear seat. And you guys are going to get the video feeds from both North Braddock, and you've probably already seen the feeds on YouTube. But clearly, the person whose arm is out the window with gun extended has a black T-shirt on. And there's other evidence, too, that indicates that Hester's the shooter.
So where did this empty clip come from?
It was already in the weapon. Yes.
The original clip for the weapon that had been replaced.
You take the clip out because it's only 9 shots. You take an extended clip and you put it in at 17. It's a trend.
So it was never discharged. It's not an empty
The 9mm was never discharged. That's correct.
Did you say that Officer Roswell, did he at any point say that he feared his life was in danger?
I don't know if he said that in his interview or not.
And also, you stated that he took people out of the car, that the procedure is to stop the disabled vehicle. But you seem to indicate that he could have just waited for backup rather than trying to do the things he did. You're saying he went against protocol or against training?
Normally you wait for backup, yes, when you have multiple persons in the vehicle.
You said that you could have, you have evidence to charge him with at least third-degree murder and then voluntary manslaughter, but you made the decision to go with first-degree murder. Was that ultimately your decision? Can you talk about the decision to go with that most serious charge?
Yeah, usually we charge criminal homicide, just 1 count, generally. That goes back to when we had a coroner instead of a medical examiner, because we were getting pretty bad decisions out of the coroner's office.
So to clarify, you charge a general charge of homicide, which has, as Mike explained before, a range of possibilities.
Yes.
From first to third.
Yes.
To clarify your remarks earlier, which you said clearly that there's evidence for a third, are you saying that that's what you would pursue at trial? Are you saying the evidence at minimum shows that you will prosecute seeking first degree?
Right now, we would ask a jury to consider all degrees of homicide.
So narrowing it will be in the hands of the jury, not, you'll leave that to the jury should it come to trial.
Right. And that's why we do that, because the coroner was making the determination and not a jury.
And you did say that you believe you have the right to argue for first degree.
Yes, ma'am.
Did your office argue against Officer
We objected to it, yes. Well, you have an officer in the county jail otherwise. I'm not sure safety considerations, security considerations, that type of thing. We objected, and we've taken that matter under advisement. I haven't made a decision what I want to do yet.
I'm sure this is too early to talk about lessons learned. We talked about training. Does there need to be more training? Do you have any thoughts on what needs to happen in the law?
Yeah. We have, in Allegheny County, we have the Allegheny County Chiefs of Police Association, which is a really progressive professional group of law enforcement members. Those guys come out with model policies. They can't obligate individual police departments to follow those policies. So in this case, yeah, I am concerned of the lack of policies and procedures in East Pittsburgh. And East Pittsburgh, by the way, is not the city of Pittsburgh. It's a separate municipality towards eastern part of the county. We have 118 police departments, some of which are run very well, some of which we have to keep an eye on all the time. But that's a creature of the legislature. If the legislature wants to do something about it, we're all here today. Let's tell them to do it.
Steve, was there gunshot residue found on Hester's hands, and was there gunshot residue found on Rose's hands?
Tests are pending.
You don't know?
At this point, we do not know. Probably there is not going to be residue because the gun was far enough out the window that it wouldn't have blown back.
On Hester.
On Hester. But clearly Hester's the shooter.
Did you test Rose too?
Yes,
Those are pending.
those are pending.
Steve, going back to Pennsylvania law, can you talk about the idea of an officer, a fleeing felon, and whether or not that can be justification for an officer shooting somebody who may have just previously been involved in a potentially serious felony?
Yeah, under the arrest scenario, generally speaking, an officer has to be in fear of death or serious bodily injury. Then you could return that threat with appropriate force. If you're trying to effectuate an arrest, then what you have to show is several things. You have to show that there was a forcible felony. Okay, shooting at somebody in North Braddock could be considered a forcible felony, but it was committed by Rose. It was not committed, excuse me, it was committed by Hester, not by Antwon. But you also have to show that a weapon's involved, or that you are otherwise in serious, there's the possibility of serious bodily injury. Those elements clearly are not there.
Steve, talking about the gun, that you said Antwon Rose did not fire a gun, but him being in the car at that drive-by shooting, does that make him a party to the crime?
No.
But the driver is a party to the crime.
The driver could be.
What is the difference there?
Well, we need him as a witness.
Do you know how Antwon Rose happened to be in that car, or what led up to his decision to be involved in this? Was he...
We have an idea of motive, but I can't comment on motive, yes.
Do you have any concerns, or can you talk about any concerns you have about East Pittsburgh's policies and procedures or lack of East Pittsburgh police?
Yeah, I'm going to take that up with the U.S. Attorney.
You know for a fact that Antwon Rose did know this Hester, say about Hester, they were acquaintances. Are you clear on that?
Yes, they knew each other.
Steve, regarding those policies, are you saying that they did not have well-defined policies about how to conduct that traffic stop?
In response to questions by the major crime investigators, when they first came on scene in East Pittsburgh, they said, well, how do you handle these situations? What's your policy? And they said, we don't have policies. That's a very dangerous situation.
Why was that so far?
They don't have policy for what? East Pittsburgh police?
For anything, as far as we know.
Steve, is the U.S. Attorney's Office pursuing a civil rights case against Rosfeld in any way?
We've been in touch with the FBI, yes.
Where did Roswell get his training?
Primarily with the University of Pittsburgh. He was 10 years with those guys. This isn't like his first stop.
Can you talk some more about the danger of not having a policy for procedures?
Somebody's dead. Can there be any more dangerous situation?
Does that make East Pittsburgh responsible in any way?
I'm sorry?
Does that make East Pittsburgh responsible in any way?
Criminally? No. Civilly? They got a lot of answering to do.
On the matter of not challenging what you believe to be improper release on bond,
We objected to it.
say again?
We objected to the bond that was issued.
But going forward, are you likely, or do you expect within the next week or so to bring that matter before an Allegheny County judge?
Yeah, the way bond works in Allegheny County is initially, it's a judicial function. So initially what you do is, if you hit the county jail, then you go in front of an arraigning magistrate. The intake people are there, the bail agency's there, and the public defender's office is there. We don't participate in those types of matters. By Constitution, if you charge generally homicide, then you shouldn't be able to be bailed. And the magistrate set the bail at $250,000 unsecured. So that's a matter that I'll talk to Judge Manning, because he hears appeals from bond issues.
So, can you say it, just to clarify, do you intend to pursue that? Are you ruling out pursuing that?
Well, I'll talk to my team and see if that affects how we're going to try the case and make a decision.
The processing here took about an hour. Generally, it takes 8 to 10 hours. Was there special treatment at the jail?
No, this is being handled just like any other homicide.
Why was Hester firing out of the back of the car?
We have an idea of that, but it deals with motive, and I can't comment. I'm not permitted to comment under the rules of professional conduct.
Steve, can you talk about the protests at all? What's your reaction to what's been happening here in your county?
I'm taking care of business.
I don't mean whether you feel pressured. I mean just in general, the blocking of the streets, the protests happening.
I don't know that I really do have an opinion. I mean, the people own the criminal justice system, and if they've got issues with it, I think they have the right to express that.
Steve, do you believe this could be a test case having a blanket ruling that an officer cannot shoot a fleeing suspect?
It's not a blanket ruling. As I said before, the Superior Court addressed this in the mid-'90s in terms of the jury instruction. That was appealed to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which was denied. It was heard on a collateral appeal in the federal courts in Philadelphia, who upheld the Superior Court's determination.
Do you believe that should be the standard?
It is the standard.
I mean, the standard of an officer not being proper procedure in any event to shoot a fleeing suspect.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I've just told you the circumstances under which it is appropriate to use deadly force if you're effectuating an arrest.
Steve, do you think Antwon Rose was just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Just a matter of circumstances?
I can't speak to that. I mean, he's in a car, but he didn't do anything in furtherance of, if you want to call it a conspiracy, he didn't do anything in furtherance of that.
Given the clip in his pocket that he was established he was the front seat passenger and the weapon was under the seat or on the front seat, do you infer that he was in possession of a stolen weapon based on that?
You can infer that, yes. There's other evidence, but that's really of no moment when we're talking about a homicide.
So it's not relevant to the officer's actions or his status, Rose's own status in that instance?
The possession of an empty clip? No, it doesn't have anything to do with our thought processes.
Roosevelt has a complicated history with the University of Pittsburgh. Can you talk about how he got hired by the East Pittsburgh Police Department?
I'm not going to get into personnel issues. I mean, that may be relevant at the time of trial. Again, I'm talking to you guys from the substance of an affidavit that supports a criminal complaint, so that I'm limited to discussing the issues that are in the affidavit.
Rose's attorney has said that there were some previous instances where Roosevelt assaulted people or acted inappropriately. I know you want to get into details, but have you found any evidence of any previous misconduct?
We have his entire personnel file. Chief Loftus, who's the chief of the University of Pittsburgh Police, was formerly the chief of Miami Metro, so he knows what he's doing, and we talked to him at length.
Are you going to release the personnel file?
Pardon me?
Are you going to release the personnel file?
It's not part of the prosecution.
Well, without getting into specifics again, I mean, is this what you saw about his prior behavior as an officer? Did that give you concern?
Yes.
Did he make false statements against suspects in the garage door?
I'm not going to get into details.
Can you talk about the eyewitness accounts of him showing his hand as he ran away, Antwon Rose?
We have a witness specifically who says his hands go up and he turns immediately and runs. And both witnesses that are right there. Cars parked, say it's parked in front of me, the next house over, and the next house over. They're witnesses.
And this is after he exits the car?
Yes. exits, turns, books.
Here that he was showing his hands in an effort to show the officer he was unarmed.
That's what the witnesses say. That's what the video from YouTube indicates. Now, we'd like to enhance that, but we're not at that point yet.
Steve, at what point were you able to speak with Officer Roscoe? When was he actually interviewed?
I want to say that was 3 days ago.
How long was that interview and where was it conducted?
County Police, or was it at Massey's? Penn Hills Police Department. It's on audio and video.
How many hours was he?
I don't know that. I can get that for you.
And can you just tell us, you might have touched on this, but what did you have to weigh when you reviewed this case and this investigation? You know, what is the bigger picture for you? What did you have to consider, weigh, in making your decision?
Well, it's the same thing that I indicated earlier when I first came into office. Taking human life is the most important. It's one of the most important things in this community, dealing with those types of tragedies. You do not shoot somebody in the back if they are not a threat to you.
How long do you have to make that decision? How many seconds was it from the time you pulled the vehicle over to he shot Antwon Rose?
I don't know exactly the number of seconds, but it was very quickly.
Can you go back to the police training?
Yes, sir.
Across the board around Allegheny County, officers usually only have one time a year they do shoot, don't shoot training. Do you think that it should be increased?
Well, most of the guys that are in these small towns, they train to minimum standards. It's called Act 120. Yeah, you have to have a refresher every year. You have to discharge, fire a weapon. Our community. Are you from Allegheny County?
Yes.
Okay. So in the North Hills, you face a different type of threat and a different type of crime than you do in the Mon Valley, or that you may do in the periphery of the city of Pittsburgh. So yeah, the guys who handle major crimes on a regular basis, they usually use the county police. But if you're going to get in a firefight, you got to be trained properly. So it's kind of a constant battle. But as I said before, the chiefs of police in our county, they're very progressive, and I think they're a great agency.
In terms of video of this, you had indicated a municipal video, a bus video. Can you recount, is there a video that is yet in hand, in some authorities' hand, but yet to be viewed? What video will you be able to release after this news conference today, and what do you anticipate would actually be shown at the preliminary hearing?
At that intersection in North Braddock, there are actually 3 cameras. And what we did is we had the techs at the county police put them together so you can see the car come up Baldridge, begin to turn left onto Jones. Even before they start to make the turn, hand goes out, gun goes out the window, shots are discharged. You can have that. That's an exhibit. You can just ask Mike. It's been redacted. The unredacted version will go into evidence at the preliminary hearing or whenever the courts first convene on this matter.
Do you know, during the Act 120 training, at least in Allegheny County, are officers put through a scenario in the fast machine of a clean felon? Do you know if that's one of the scenarios or sims in the past?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I believe it is.
Do you anticipate, just to clarify, the fire department?
Oh, I'm sorry. You asked me about the bus video. We just received video from that particular bus. A bus goes through that intersection just before shots are fired. Our buses normally have 6 cameras. So we haven't had a chance to look at that yet. But it could help us. But we know who I said several times. We know who the shooter from the car is. We know who the guy is that returned fire on the street. We're looking for him now too.
At the preliminary hearing, can you say yet if you intend to enter into the evidence at the preliminary hearing the video interview of the officer in which he makes his statements?
No, the detective would testify as to what he said in the interview.
Hey guys, we're going to wrap this up. One more question.
Did you guys start cooperating in the investigation into Officer Roscoe?
No, not at this point.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have to, right? That's what I got. Okay.
Your note was to Hester, not to Roscoe, correct? And you said not cooperating, that was Hester, not Roscoe, correct?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back up with your discs.